Going to go over the Peavey Triflex system. If you look over here to your left, the dual wireless microphone, what I actually did for you was I did as much color coding as I could to make it pretty easy. So you have the yellow and the green, then you also know that I put the yellow and green strip, and then mic 1 and mic 2 right here. Mic 1 is always going to be on the left. Then if you look at the back of the unit, you'll see the cables that are in there far left. That's your power cable. Then you have mic 1 and mic 2 coming out. Then going right to the mixer. You'll see that I also color coded these. So you have the yellow and green, mic 1, mic 2. Then as you look at the mixer, you'll notice that I have the first cable, which is a dual RCA, which wraps all the way up here to the laptop with its H-ends. So what you do is you plug the 1/8 inch right into the headphone jack of your laptop, and you're running this out of channel 14. The white button is pushed down for B. You'll notice that it says B here. I also took the time to label this for you. It says laptop. Then you'll notice the main mixer. You'll notice that these have the red and blue automatically on it, and it says left out, right out. And you'll notice that I did the stickers the same way. What I did was I think I actually gave you 30-foot cables, so 33. You could take the mixer and put that far away from the sub. You definitely don't want to run it like this. Wherever you're going to have your table, you'll put the mixer there, the wireless mics, your laptop, the laptop shelf. You'll notice this laptop shelf basically sits here, goes down, and I could put the mixer on top of the feet. That'll stabilize it. Or you could put the mixer over to the side and leave this just where it is. Then you look at the back of the subwoofer. The other end of these cables right here are going into the left and right in of the sub. And you'll notice that I have right here, it says sub left in, and you'll know that it goes right in here, sub left right. You'll see that the speaker cables, these are twist on. So basically all you're doing is you're twisting these speaker cable, put it in there, line it up, twist it till it locks. That's for the left and right. Then the other end of the speaker goes right into the back of the speaker. I also labeled all these for you. You'll notice that you have two volumes. You have the master system level, which is for your two speakers, and then you have your sub level. I have a max for playing music, but if you end up using it for karaoke, you're definitely going to want to turn this way down because you don't want a lot of bass in karaoke music. Here you'll see a left out, which is not being used, and a right out, which is not being used. This is if you basically had a second one and you were linking them both together. Okay. I also did this for you. This is an isolator on the plug, and you'll see that it says to the mixer. Now, as far as the mixer, we're going to go over the mixer, because this is basically the most important part of the system for you. You'll notice that it basically has 10 channels from left to right, 1 through 10. Then you'll see the other two channels, which basically you use for different equipment. In the case of this, like I said, we have the laptop here. I also got you another cable you could put here, and you could hook up, basically you could hook up an iPad or something else you want to use. You could even use another cable and hook up just a CD player and so forth. Then as you look here, you have the two in the mic inputs. These could all be used for microphone inputs. Below this is also for microphone inputs. You mentioned that you had corded microphones, so I'm assuming they're 1/4 inch. So you would use these two, and if you want a better signal, I would tell you to later get the XLR because that's a better signal. Okay, What we're going to do is go over to the right here. We're going to go over this section first. On the top here, this is if you ever want to put a recorder. You basically have a recorder that has in and outs, and then you go ahead and in and out here. Then below this, this is an effects center. So when you're doing karaoke, you have the amount of effects you have here, and then you could go into different rooms. And right now I have it set. Then below this, you'll notice a monitor send. I have that all the way down because we're not using that. What that is let's say you wanted to have a powered speaker that you set on the floor and use as a monitor so that people could listen to whatever music's coming through it. That's what the monitor mix is for, and that's the main monitor mix you would use. And then on each channel is also a monitor value, and that's where you control that. Below this is the effects send. I have that all the way up. That just means that this is how much I'm allowing the effects to go through the board. You have a headphone jack. So if you end up wanting to listen to the headphones, there's a headphone input here, and this is basically just the volume on what you're listening to and so forth. Then below here, you have a set of LEDs and your mains. Basically, you'll see, if I was playing music, just listening music, let's say you guys are just in the house using the system but you don't want it loud, you could put the masters right here really low and play the music low. But when you're doing a full-blown function, you see where it says 0? That's basically where you put it. Now, could you go a little bit higher? Yes, but this is pretty much standard right here. You always want to watch your LEDs. You never want to go into the yellow or red. Of course, if you hit certain beats, it could blink into the yellow, but if it does it just for a millisecond, you're fine. But you want to make sure you always keep it low in order to basically just make it more efficient. Then over here this is a button that you'd have to use a pen or a needle to push down if you wanted to engage what's called the phantom power. Now what that is the phantom power is, let's say you have a microphone, a condenser mic that requires phantom power. Then you would turn that on. In most cases, you probably won't even use it. And then you also have buttons here. This is just basically tape to mix. This is the contour and tape control. You could look at the manual to see that. Most often you won't use it. Now, looking at the mixer itself. Once you understand one channel, you basically know them all. So, we'll start from the top here. When you have your master volume here, you're going to go ahead and set your gains right here. And the two that I use for music, you'll notice that I have them at basically 12 o'clock. The most I would ever bring them, you'll see that 12 o'clock on here is actually 5. You could probably bring it to 7 if you wanted to, but for the most part, I think this should be sufficient. And then basically what you do is you adjust your highs, mids, and your lows. Then below this, like we mentioned earlier, this is if you use the monitor out on the mixer and have another powered speaker. It has to be a powered, not passive. And then below this is the effects. That's basically how much echo that you put in. Below this is your balance. You probably never mess around with this, but for the most part, this is simply just, this is how much it's feeding to the left, how much it's feeding to the right speaker. Right now I have it in the center so you could hear both equally. But let's say you decided to put one speaker in one room, one in the other, and you don't even want the other room to be heard, you could just basically switch it over this way. Then below this you have what's called a mute button. You'll notice on here that I have channels 5 through 10 already muted, but you'll also notice that every knob on these channels are all the way down. When you're not using these channels, it's best to completely kill them, and that's exactly what I did. So now let's go over to the mic channels. I left 1 through 4 open, but you'll notice that there's nothing going on here because we don't have anything plugged in. So if you use your corded mics, you'll end up being able to use this. So let's concentrate on channel 1 and channel 2 for your microphones. Basically what you do, one of the best ways to check your microphone is actually to turn your microphone on, start talking through it. Just say check 1, check 2, and do it really strong, and listen to it. And up here, your gain, just go ahead and bring it up until you start seeing this turn red. The first second you see that turn red, you take this gain and move it down a little bit and make sure that it's always in the green. That's exactly what you'll do for 3 and 4, and that's why I'm mentioning it for this. I already set this to max. That's the sensitivity, and that's as far as you go for the microphones. You'll notice that it's actually lower than the music channels over here. Now, each of these channels also have basically a roll-off. This means if you push this down, it cuts off any frequency below 80 hertz. And considering what you're doing, you're really not going to mess around with that. And then you'll also notice here, as you're bringing this up, you're going to go ahead and bring it up and listen to the vocals through the microphones. If you feel that you're pulling this up quick and it's already too loud for you, then what you do is you go ahead and turn this down a little bit, which would allow you to have more flexibility going up. So that's just going to be a call that you make. And then, like I said, I use the mute clips here, but let's say you have the 2 microphones out on a stage and the singer's done and they don't turn off the switch here. You could actually mute them every time you're not using it, and then they come back up, you unmute it. That way you have control over the volume. There are people that will accidentally turn off the microphones, or they have them on and then you don't want to hear different noise going through the system because it's on. That's what this mute function will do for you. And this is pretty much it as far as running the mixer. It's pretty simplistic. And as far as running the system, looking at it again, you have the simple inputs and so forth, the back of the microphones. This right here is your antennas. You'll screw this on. And the reason why I did so many color coding is I wanted to make it as easy as I could for you. And then in addition to this, the reason why I added this as well, as far as the yellow band, and not just keeping this, because there may be a time you want to take this off. Like let's say you want to take this off and you actually want to see the chrome. You could do that, and you still know that it's actually the yellow mic, which coincides with mic 1, the yellow sticker. And there we have it. And I do apologize if I messed up any. It's 3 o'clock in the morning.